With NFR Extra, we're going to take you behind the scenes in a way you've never heard before. Every 2 weeks, you're going to hear personal conversations with the icons and personalities that make up the world's richest and most prestigious rodeo. NFR Extra. All dirt, all rodeo, all year.
Robbie, this is it.
Yep. God, we
At
made
least
it.
this is it for this run right now.
I think this is the longest job I've ever had, other than working the barrel.
Well, you've done a pretty good job, my brother.
You too, my friend. You know, it's kind of funny. Today, we had two of the greats. We had Donnie Gay, Mr. 8X. We found him.
Yeah, we found Donnie Gay, by the way.
The pondering
everybody.
question in Las Vegas this year is, where's Donnie?
Well, we found him for a little bit. He was in the NFR Extra podcast studio, or better yet, the Bloomer Trailer studio.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Randy Bloomer, because this place is thumping outside.
Yeah, it is.
And then we got to talk to one of my dear friends and a guy that I get to back up a lot, and I get to play hind catcher for, Dusty Tuckness. 11 times he's been to this Wrangler National Finals, and
is he cool, man?
He never gets excited much, does he?
No,
I mean,
he doesn't.
And he fights bulls the same way. Cool, slow is fast in that sport.
So, and kind of here's what you should expect.
Mm-hmm.
Donnie Gay breaking down, his run for the 8, but in comparative to what we got going on with Sage Kimzey. It's pretty interesting, kind of that tie-in of like what these champions go through when there's something on the horizon, whether it's 10 straight at the NFR.
Yes.
Breaking that 8X you brought up.
Yeah, and what a respect he has for Sage. And just like he said, me and Tough don't always send Christmas cards to each other, but...
Yeah, but tried quantifying that cab ride in Canada back in the 80s,
that was
right?
the funniest thing.
But who was that again? You got, what?
Jim Sharp,
Lane Frost,
Tough, and Donnie
Gay, all in the same cab.
Yeah.
That's a lot of bull riding history, champions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, Dusty, you start thinking about this sport, bullfighting. Mm-hmm. I know you're part of the stuff, and you look at Dusty, and here's a guy who went from the old school to the new school.
Right.
He's the bridge, right?
Absolutely, and it's such a joy to work for him, or I say back him up because I'm in the barrel. Yeah. Those guys take such good care. They're always tending the bull riders, but they're always taking care of their barrel man and stuff like that. It's such an honor. And some of the locker room shenanigans that you're going to hear about and stuff like that.
What about him sneaking out and bullfighting when he shouldn't have been?
Yeah, as a little kid, I know. Yeah, we learned a lot about Dusty today.
Yeah,
I think you're going to enjoy this podcast. I really do. And I want to thank everybody for the great comments we've had for the last week, and all our guests that have opened up to us. It's been incredible. I've learned more. And I'll give you an example. When we were doing this interview, I let you ask Dusty most of those questions because your knowledge, I've seen it in the last even 10 days. We've only been doing this now, and Triple B here, she's doing great with her stuff. I'm overwhelmed at y'all that allow me to do this and get to talk to my friends like this. And I get them. Hopefully I bring something out of the rodeo. But
absolutely.
Your questions and stuff like that. But you sure are getting better with your rodeo knowledge.
I think I'm making friends. Here's the bad part. What I have always said this about rodeo being a part of this. The more people I meet, the more that I care about them, the more when I'm watching a performance, my heart, my mind's focused because I know something could go bad real quick.
Yeah.
And that's the part I don't like about caring about y'all in this rodeo business is that I don't want anything to ever go bad, but man, it can. And but it makes me also care a lot more and watch a lot more. And I really hope you enjoy this episode.
I do too. I hope everybody does.
This is Brylan Bentley with Rodeo News of the Week. As we come to the close of the 2019 Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, we'd like to pause for a moment and look back at the last 9 months. We launched NFR Extra in March of 2019 with just one goal in mind, to provide a year-round platform for our guests to tell their stories. Those stories have come from contestants, stock contractors, entertainers, and others who are ingrained in the rodeo industry. It almost goes without saying, but we are so grateful for the opportunity to bring these stories to you. We've learned so much from our guests there have been moments of laughter, tears, solemn reflection, and everything in between. We've enjoyed every minute of it. We look forward to continuing this journey in 2020. We'll return in January with the same energy and passion that this podcast deserved. We wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Round number 9 of the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. A little shake-up in a few of the events. And, to get to round 10, you got to survive round 9. And there were some Cowboys that had some bad luck.
But, it sounds like just an old analogy. It is a marathon here. But guess what? It is a marathon. In round 9, just when you thought some guys had the door pretty well nailed shut, man, oh, man, they blew her open in this round.
It's the old sports analogy. You got to take them one at a time. Clayton Bigelow, he was good tonight in the bareback riding, but it was Jake Brown who got the win, 89.5 points.
Yeah, I was tickled for Jake Brown. I mean, he has struggled a little bit on some horses this week, but in this pen, he shines. Great ride.
Here's another one of those big changes. Tyler Wagaspack knocked out of the average. Ty Erickson wins the round.
Man, oh man, how much pressure, and he took a run at that barrier, made a huge move towards his first world title. We'll see what happens in round 10.
Clay Smith, Jake Corkle had issues. Caleb and Jr., they strike.
3-6, so these guys, how wicked is that? That's got to feel good, and they are so dangerous now.
Zeke Thurston, go-around winner, takes a giant step toward gold buckle number 2.
Boy, Zeke he's just knocking them down one at a time. He's got some guys breathing down his neck. If he makes a mistake, right now, though, he's a cool character.
Marty Yates has got to be thinking, oh, if only. He had one get up on him earlier in the week, kind of knocked him out of the average. Wins the second round, 7 flat.
Really good to see him make this run. We know how wicked he is, and maybe not going to pull it off this year, but he'll be back.
Haley Kinsel, tough again tonight, but Stevie Hillman was the go-round winner.
And I was really tickled for Stevie. She has kind of struggled this week, had one run, she didn't even make the pattern, had a no time, and then to come back on Sharpie and run the fastest run we've seen yet this week.
Bull riding, you had Stetson Wright make the whistle. Sage Kimzey bucks off, and Boudreaux Campbell continues to just dominate.
Man, oh man, I don't know what he did different. Whatever it was the right thing, because you're right, Jeff. He showed up as a real bull rider this year.
Good, clean living, I think that's what he says.
That helps.
Well, you look at the all-around with Stetson Wright. He's moved up to 4th in the average, made money tonight. Clay Smith had issues. Tough Cooper hanging in there, but Stetson Wright trying to strike another blow for the rough stock Cowboys.
Yeah, and he stepped in the right direction with that ride.
Round number 10, it's Championship Saturday. You don't want to miss it. We'll set the stage with the Wrangler NFR pre-show at 9:30 Eastern Time, and then we'll jump into round number 10 with both boots right here on CBS Sports Network.
Looking for tickets to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo? StubHub is the official secondary and fan-to-fan site of the rodeo. Fans can buy and sell their tickets through a safe and secure online marketplace. Visit nfrexperience.com.
To celebrate the 35th anniversary of the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas, LVE and PRCA present the top 35 most memorable moments.
History happened at the 1988 National Finals Rodeo when bull rider Jim Sharp went 10 for 10 to become the first cowboy to cover every bull at Rodeo Super Bowl. Known for amazing consistency throughout his career, Sharp also holds the record for most successful NFR bull rides, racking up 23 straight from 1987 through 89. The two-time college champ is also a two-time world champion, winning gold buckles in 1988 and 1990. Sharp won 3 NFR average titles, which ties him for the most ever with Denny Flynn. Norman Curry and Brazilian star Adriano Moraes would later match the rare 10 for 10 feat, Curry in 1990 and Moraes in 1994. But it was the clutch cowboy they call Razor that got there first.
He should be able to ride this bull. When he gets that far, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He is going to do it. He has done it. He has done it. Rodeo history. 30 years we have waited for this. Look at there.
Jim Sharp was inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame in 2006.
Mr. Hodges.
Yes, sir.
This
hey, you
is,
changed it.
Yes, and yes.
That's
Sorry,
good.
Robbie. Yeah,
It's
I
all
didn't say
right.
man or oh man.
That's
or-
okay. That's your siren.
Well, here we are, right? Last day.
Oh my gosh, we've made it. I still have a voice. You still have a voice.
Yeah, and I mean, my emotions are intact. It's been
Yeah.
a crazy run of talking to a lot of people in the rodeo industry, and
Man, we brought it out too.
Yeah.
It's been great. I hope everybody's enjoyed these podcasts this week, and some of the guys that we talked to. You know, some of them, I've been really surprised at some of the stuff that they've opened up and told us about, and some of the history, and not even just how they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that I personally have learned how to. Well, not learn how to saddle bronc, but I understand how to saddle.
You know what X and 3 is now,
by
golly, don't
I
you?
do.
We had to explain
absolutely.
it.
Yes,
there it
yes,
is.
Donnie. Well, speaking of that, all right, well, just real quick, I am your host, Nevada Caldwell.
And I'm rocking Robbie Hodges.
And this is NFR Extra Podcast. And we have
the GOAT,
a big legend.
Yes, sir.
Right?
And we have found him.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
The pondering question.
We found Donnie Gay.
The pondering question of the week. Where is Donnie Gay?
Well, he is in the NFR Extra Bloomer Studio podcast right now.
Yep.
Donnie Gay, 8-time world champ, and Donnie Gay. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Your voice is good?
Oh, I'm great.
Well, you shouldn't be working so hard. I mean, mine's fine.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. Thank you, Z-Pax and Prednisone this week.
I hear you.
I gotta tell you. So my girlfriend is the biggest Donnie Gay fan ever. And thank goodness he's a Krista fan. And so we went to Cuba this year, and Donnie likes some cigars. So the first thing, we go to this big famous cigar store there, and she said, we got to get Donnie some cigars. So I brought him the rest of them this morning. And we sat out there and visited, talking about airplanes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Donnie, thanks for coming on the show. We've heard your name a lot here, you know, when we refer to things like, you know, the multiple champions and kind of the record you've set. How has it been? Because we're also reflecting a lot on the 35 years being here at the Thomas Mack Center in Las Vegas. And how has it been being going from champ, seeing everything happen? How's it been this run of Vegas of 35 years that you've seen and been a big part from competing to being behind the scenes, on the camera, on the mic? How's it been kind of this run?
This is the best rodeo that the ProRodeo has to offer. If you even think you're a rodeo fan, come spoil yourself at the National Finals Rodeo. And you don't actually have to even get into the Thomas and Mack with the upgrades in technology. Some of the hotel viewing parties, like at the Orleans, hosted by Justin Rumford, the Boyd Gaming Group, you can enjoy this rodeo in so many settings. It's not even funny. And you know, my last year to qualify for national finals was 1985, the first year it moved out here, and they doubled the money from Oklahoma City, and it was $5 in a cab from the Thomas and Mack to Benny Binion's, and $5 for the best steak in the world. And gosh, we thought we'd died and gone to heaven.
Yeah, I bet you did. That's amazing. So the difference from Oklahoma City to here was it was a chore, and everybody doubted it. That's all we've heard all week is how the doubt was. Oh, y'all can't believe, I can't believe y'all have done this. You've ruined the sport of rodeo. You know, it'll never be the same. And boy, they were wrong, because this entire thing's changed.
Well, and to even further that, the accomplishment that Benny Binion, Bill Boyd, and Sean Davis, those three were key. Now, a lot of moving parts. Michael Gaughan's been here, and you know, from way before day one, and so you had, you know, the movers and shakers in Las Vegas, and we knew if we came out here, as long as they stayed hooked for the rodeo, it was going to be successful. But now let me, you can go back and find the video, and I think it's actually all in color from 85 on. But you go back and look, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because it used to start on a Friday and end on Sunday.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Okay, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, grandstands were packed. You know, if you had season tickets in Oklahoma City, you had season tickets out here as long as you re-upped.
Oh, right.
And the first year, all of the stock contractors, the ones that get cussed a lot, you know.
Yeah.
They didn't have any choice. They were forced by the association to buy their tickets to come out here.
Oh.
And
nice.
so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it was full. But Monday through Thursday, we could have started a better fight behind the chutes than they could have in the grandstand.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, so it wasn't just a slam dunk. this, when I hear people say, when we moved from Outdoor Channel or from RFD at one point, we got to go to CBS Sports to reach more people. Well, and I said, reach more. Does it reach more people if they're not watching? And nobody, you kind of get the blank look stare, and guess what? You're not preaching to the choir. The choir is the one that invites somebody that's a CBS Sports fan that loves volleyball or loves hockey or loves basketball that preempted us the other day, and those kind of things. The choir is the one that invites that sports nut to come share a rodeo with them, and maybe you create a fan. And you do rodeo just like you do in business. You create one at a time.
Yep.
And then they'll stick with you forever. You see all them old gray and bald heads in the grandstands every night.
Yep.
They won't miss it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that along this way, by utilizing the right folks within broadcasts or whatever that promotes the business of rodeo, the more that people meet, the more that people that start to understand, the more that they care. And if you get them to care,
there you go.
They're gonna come.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to go back because you brought it up. We're going back to the 80s, and we've been doing this a lot, Donnie, with individuals that either competed, came from Oklahoma City, coming over here. Where did you stay for the first couple of years in Vegas?
The street is still there, and so am I.
There you go.
The Hacienda,
Yes.
the Hacienda Hotel, they were the host hotel for the bull riders, and because every hotel had an event.
Right.
For the sponsors. That's how they began their quest, and it was just a lot of fun. When I drive by, going down Arvilla, you go by all these things, and it's changed, but it's still the same. It's it's like the shirts in my closet have changed from the 70s and then the 80s and 90s. There's evolution, and that's not really change. That's progress.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the beautiful part about Vegas is, when you think about, like, sometimes people outgrow things and things just, you get too much more and you can't handle. Literally, since the 80s, we stay within our lanes of, and I'm just making this up for those that come to Vegas, but Sahara, the Tropicana, it really hasn't got, South Point's out there, but my point is that we just reinvent, right? You brought up Hacienda. Well, what is that now?
The whole thing is, I was on the board of directors, and our meetings was, they were at the Sahara the first year, and then the Riviera the next year, and and Ricky and the Red Streaks were there, and and so
That was a good run, wasn't it?
Well, we had fun. We start talking about the 70s and 80s. My head starts itching. My hair's going to grow again.
You did have hair. I'll give you that. Then.
What about Oscar? This name's been brought up a few times, and I didn't. Me not being the. You gotta remember, Donnie, I'm always the kind of the guy that's learning and asking questions. Robbie clearly knows this stuff, but I've heard the name with stock contractors coming to talk. I heard the name Oscar.
Yeah.
And that seems to be synonymous with you.
We had a great run, and Oscar was pretty beneficial to me. I drew him in competition 5 times over the years. First time he was ever ridden was in 1974 by John Davis, who was my traveling partner at the time. Nice. And he basically was, he just wouldn't let go. He was bucked off at Salinas, but he wouldn't let go, and he still won first place.
Off the side?
On the side, yeah.
Hanging off the side?
I wasn't there, but that's what I was told. I was in Cheyenne because I hadn't drawn very well, and the bull herds weren't as deep, and so you didn't, it didn't matter what your ability level was. Sometimes you just drew where you weren't going to win, and so I didn't go to Salinas, and I missed that ride. But it would have been pretty special because the first year I went to the National Finals Rodeo, Bob Cook of Rodeo Stock Contractors had Oscar there, was his headline bull, but he had 6 other bulls there. He had 7 head of bulls there, and I drew every one of them. And the good news was I was just not quite 19 years old, and those bulls were all little inbred Brammer Cross bucking bulls.
Brammer.
That averaged about 1,350, 1,400 pounds. Ooh. They were small in comparison. Because everybody had gargantuan giants back then. And big brindles with baseball bats for horns, and
Nice.
and you know, 5 of them were bucking son of a guns, and the other 10 they could have doubled as the arena police. And so,
I'm sure y'all bucked them sometime at Mesquite, if I had to guess.
oh yeah, well that kind of stuff.
man.
But Oscar was in that group. But I say all of this to all those bulls were little, and I rode every one of them. And they had great records coming from California. They were,
Right.
you know, 4 or 5 of the 7 had never had an 8-second ride on them. Well, you know, time they left, all but Oscar in '72 had an 8-second ride on them.
Wow.
And but I drew them because they were little and they fit my style, and the other ones wouldn't have. So I won 3rd in the average in my first NFR. But Oscar was one of those ones that pushed me. He bucked me and my brother Pete both off that year in '72 at the NFR. He bucked me off again in the '70, I believe the '73 NFR. Might have been a little later than that. And then I rode him for the first time at Angels Camp, California in 1975. I was 88 points and won the bull riding there. And that was pretty special because we had just left Las Vegas and stayed a week in Winnemucca and then drove to Angels Camp, California, and we were broke. I mean, zero.
So
money.
poverty grip had a lot to do with you riding Oscar, didn't
Yeah,
it?
you're holding on for everything.
I tell you what, it was one of those. It was really a thank you Jesus moment because hanging on wasn't going to work on Oscar. You just had to be in the right spot, and I happened to get there. That was the fun part. And then I rode him again at the Cow Palace in 1977, 2 years after that.
Wow.
This bull started coming to the national finals in 1970.
Goodness
There's
gracious.
no bulls do that ever.
Wow.
Today, maybe 4 years in a row.
Yeah, and then they're swapping.
But he was a stayer. 77, I was 97 points on him. But the Angels Camp ride, it was much better. That's that judging and the point scoring, and
Right.
that is human nature, and it's which girls are prettiest. It just depends on who's looking.
Absolutely.
And you
like
know,
that.
for
That's the nature of it,
for your
though.
scores. As long as you get 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th right, who rode the toughest bull the best, then judging becomes fairly easy.
Let's get into that while we're
Yeah. No,
thinking
it's
about that,
funny you said that.
because
I was
if
gonna ask
you
that.
are sitting in your room and you can't sleep and you go to social media, I have never seen, since I've been in this business with Facebook and everything, more couch judges than
Oh, my goodness,
about last,
man. You see
with
it all the
Sage
time.
and the '94, and they're jacking up the scores and everything. People, it's not 1984. You don't want to see a bull riding getting won by 80 points.
Well, yeah, I don't know that you don't want to see a bull riding getting won by 80 points, as long as the places are right.
That's exactly
absolutely.
right. As
These
long
are-
as it's right. What's
and
what's the
so
difference?
I challenge everybody that does Facebook. You
Yeah.
really should, and I'm one to talk.
Me too.
Oh, good.
You really shouldn't be too argumentative until you're in the position. If you've judged, if you've been to the national finals, if you've qualified, okay, and you survived, you can gripe a little. If you've judged the national finals rodeo and been a contestant, you're an expert.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you're a judge now and not ever qualified for the national finals, but you've gone through the professional judging protocol, you are an expert. It's your opinion, and people have no idea. They don't take into consideration. I mean, they'd worry about picking which girl's the prettiest at the prom more than they.
Yeah.
And this is just what this is. You can get nervous about anything, about any decision you're going to make that's going to be real impactful. Just sit back, have your opinion. Say, man, I thought Stetson should have beat Sage. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But guess what? Sage beat Stetson. That's how it is, and not how you wanted it to be.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know if that's not correct grammar.
Well,
I know
it
that.
is in
it's okay.
Alabama. You're okay. But
Let me throw this out real quick, though.
Okay.
The same thing happens in pro sports.
Everything,
Right?
I mean, pass interference, was it a catch?
Yes, and so they didn't really lose it. They could have won had that call not went down, but they did. Guess what?
You know what? You know what's
They
changed?
went to 0.
You know what's changed? Instant replay really has hurt
it's
all
tough.
sports.
Oh, yeah.
The call on the field 9 times out of 10 or 99 out of 100 or 9 million out of 10 million, call on the field is the best call because it's all in context of what he's been doing all week long.
Yep.
And that stuff never changes. But what's changed is our world has been over-lawyered, in my estimation.
Yeah.
But what's really changed is you got a fine if you're ugly, if you say something ugly to the judge, and if social media were around in the 60s or 70s, and you'd have said that judge is the stupidest SOB I've ever seen, you'd get your butt kicked up and down the street. That the judge would be exonerated, right? Because he'd beat the tar out of you.
Exactly.
And you know, I mean, the way you did it back in the day, my daddy said, don't say anything to the judges. He said, he said, if you win second and you're supposed to win first, don't say a word.
Yeah.
If you win second and you're supposed to win fourth, don't say a word. He said, if you're supposed to win first and you don't place, beat the hell out of the judge.
Oh, my gosh.
So what you're saying is just too much
that's how
policing.
it was done.
Yeah, too much policing going on.
It is, and these opinions, and like you just said, it's a split decision. I mean, it's a split second.
Yeah.
I mean, they have. If you'll notice, those scores come up as fast. I mean, they call them and then write them down. So a guy, I mean, it's fast.
There's a lot of emotions involved there.
It's coming up, you know, right off of the box on the computer. But the pure fact is they're the ones that have the weight and responsibility of life-changing events for somebody winning the all-around championship. And let's just pick one. Butch Kirby, the 1978 world champion bull rider. You don't think he doesn't want it in his mind to be absolutely perfect? He's not going to cheat anybody. The mark out. I could take or leave the mark out rule because, you know, I believe that the mark out rule was instituted not because it makes the horse tougher to ride. It sets up your ride.
Yes.
And really is a help. The mark out rule was designed to eliminate people.
Because it's an opinionated.
There's only
gotcha.
You got 100 bronc riders at Cheyenne back in the day when they snubbed them up, didn't have bucking chutes. You got 100 guys that are in the competition, and only 4 or 2 or 3 or how many ever places they're going to pay. That's all it's going to win. What are you going to do with all those guys when they all ride a similar animal?
Yeah, and everybody's.
What you going to do?
Interesting.
I agree with and I'll give you an example of that.
So that's just my opinion. I could take it or leave it because if you don't mark your horse out properly, you're a jump and a half from catching up. And with these judges out here, mister, you miss one lick, I don't care if you rode sipping velvet, 7 seconds good, you're just barely going to place, if any.
Yeah, it's
Judge Jordan expanded on that about a week ago.
Yep.
Oh, AJ? Sure, yeah.
That is so true. I'll give you an example of how an opinion of a mark out. I had a judge. He was a calf roper. I never, anytime when I rode bareback courses, I never ever got a score when that guy was there. I knew he'd say you got to hold him for 3 or you got to hold him. You don't. It's one jump, but that was his opinion, and he was the almighty on it.
Yeah.
Well, and it was his opinion counted at the time.
Yep.
And by the way, first time I saw Robbie Hodges and met him, he rode a national finals bucking horse at Palestine, Texas, at the rodeo.
Smart Alec.
And he won the bareback ride.
Yep.
Nice. So
coming
from Alabama.
Robbie?
Yeah. Hey, and I got to go hang out at the Holiday Inn, top of the bar with my hero Donnie.
But they didn't have breakfast back then, did they?
No, they did not. Yeah, I don't know. We were still asleep. We may have been still awake because I just
That's
wanted
enough, Robbie.
I know.
Hey, you brought up style. Okay, so one of the things I'm learning about this sport, just like like shooting in basketball, throwing a ball in football, hitting in baseball, there's styles. You mentioned you had a different style. We talked about the style with Sage Kimzey,
Sage
right?
or Jim Sharp.
Yes,
even.
and very similar. Like for instance, the other night, Thursday night, right, bull riding. Sage was all over the place. You never see Sage ride like that, but for some odd reason, there was no way he was getting he was riding that bull, but that wasn't how Sage usually rides.
that was the bull.
Yeah. So I mean, does
Make the whistle when it counts.
yes. So how does can we expand a little bit on style?
Sure.
Like what was your style, and kind of explain that, and we can jump into someone else's of like where we can get a good correlation of what's happening today.
Jerome Robinson and I started moving the free arm more. Back in the day, you know, guys like Jim Shoulders would say, you know, you're just hamming it up, you know, making it look tougher than it really is, that sort of thing. But I didn't like taking a hold of them with my feet and leaning away from my hand just a little bit on the rope. That was more of being along for the ride, like in a bareback riding is today with those riggins. The riggins are ridiculous, and it hurts the bareback riders, but they're not going to change because they're winning, making a living with them the way they are right now, and you know that, and you've seen them evolve. But I think they're too hard on, you know, the horses and the cowboys, just my opinion.
Right.
But the pure fact is, you could have bareback riders ride with a main hold, and the best bareback riders are going to wind up being a world champion. They'll figure out a way to be competitive, and the winners are going to continue to win. Sage Kimzey makes 99% of them, or 98% of them, look really easy, and gosh, he just kind of had a day off, and you start kind of hating on him because he's making so much money and this, that, and the other until he bucks off, or you know, one shakes him loose and he's really got to put it out. He's got all that in the gas tank, and that's why I say he's the best bull rider on the planet right now.
I mean, up until, you know, once again, just always watching this stuff, but it does make sense when you start to understand style and the consistency of things. Yeah, if you're looking flaring all over for the Joe public out there, like, oh my God, it looked like an awesome ride, right? I mean, just the way it looked aesthetically. But at the end of the day, when you boil it down, it was no different than the other guy, just riding the bull, basically, just holding his core down.
When you have the conversations of who rides them easier, well, that's kind of a silly conversation in my estimation.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but the pure fact is, you ride them when it means something. Anybody can make a 3-foot putt on the practice, on the putting green, to go practice. But if it's a 3-footer downhill and sitting on a side hill, and it's for the U.S. Open and $10 million, that hole shrinks.
Yes,
good point. So
that bull gets big.
So the hardest part for Sage on Bruiser was the podcast. Not have a chance to break the record. All of this, you cannot block that out. You have to go ahead and take it in, and and my thought was, when Stetson Wright made his 93 or 92, whatever it was, I said right then, I said, that'll loosen Sage up.
You bet.
And it,
that's good stuff.
But he just totally, he got relaxed. And Sage was on our show at the Orleans last night at National Finals tonight.
Right.
And after he bucked off, this is how mature this guy is. He didn't want to come and visit with me and Joe B at the Orleans on our show after the rodeo to recap it, because he knew he was going to make the highlights, and he did. But he shared his time. Guys, Stetson Wright was on. Boudreaux Campbell was.
He's not hot as a pepper right now. I've never seen.
Come to my show and you want to go around. I mean, Tyler Van. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It rubs off.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear what you're saying.
You bet.
So let's.
I'm not superstitious, but you shouldn't poke the odds.
No, I'm just cautious. Isn't that what they say? I'm not superstitious. I'm just cautious.
So I think about runs, right? And I think about you getting eight. But you went on runs, right? You did 4 in a row, 3 in a row, and then you wrapped that one up. How impressive is this? And kind of explain the true mental state that Sage is going through. It looks like, obviously, 6 is...
Most people thought, that he rides them easy and he don't take a pounding. But I'm going to tell you, when he left the NFR here last year, it was kind of not on a high note. Yeah. How can you not be on a high note when you won your 5th world championship in a stinking row?
Yes.
I mean, and so... you got a beautiful girlfriend on your arm, another gold buckle, so you don't have to worry about polishing one and keeping it up, and that sort of thing. But he really had to go inside and that guy that looks back at you in the morning when you're brushing your teeth, you cannot BS him very much.
No.
He had some injuries and real slow start, and really had to work on being enthusiastic about doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And doing the same thing.
100%.
And doing the same thing. Yeah. And doing the same thing. You want me to stop? Well, so did every, you know.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So what are you going to do if you're going to talk to another guy here in a little bit, that when you're set up and you're doing your business and you have your goals and you have your self-respect and you have your plan for your life, because life's about choices, got to make good ones, and coulda, woulda, shoulda, doesn't cut it.
Yep.
You have to be moving forward or you're moving backwards.
Yeah.
And you can look at the NFR list over the last 5 or 6 years and you go, I didn't realize he wasn't here. Where's he at?
Yeah.
And was just a few years ago you're hating on him. He wins everything. Judges are marking him too high because his style's too,
Then where is he?
Well, this business is tough. You know, the thing that I had an advantage going in. My daddy started the Mesquite Rodeo when I was 5 years old, and so I grew up with Jim Shoulders, the greatest of all time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I grew up, him being my second father. Went to the first NFR in 1959. I was looking through the rail, but
That's
I was
awesome.
there.
Right Dallas?
In Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
Okay, so this business, you have to be moving forward, or you're moving backwards. When I wanted to be the world champion bull rider, I didn't know how many times, and I didn't know when. I didn't know what am I going to do after I'm a world champion bull rider. My dream had stopped there. You know, so there's life after bull riding. And the best thing for me is I grew up in the business. I've been a stock contractor. I'm the general manager for the Frontier Rodeo and stock contractor of the year firm for the 5th year in a row,
5
working
years.
for Jerry
Nice.
Nelson.
Yep.
I got my jet pilot rating this past year. From last year's NFR to this year, I went from co-pilot to captain. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. It had been a long time since I'd been to school, you know, trying to string it all together. So it was you challenge yourself, and this is fun. Those world championships. In '78, Butch won the world. There's never been a bad world champion. Now, has it always been the right world champion? Couch judges, speak up. There's your kid.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Oh gosh,
it's
the
all
bullpen is lit up right now.
Yeah.
The
so
one
so
I
it's
get
all
banned
so it's
from
all
every week.
so it's all perception on whoever's having the thought. And so I win my world titles. They changed the rules in '76, so I won it both ways in '76. I won it both ways in '77 after the stinking write-off because they didn't know you could wind up tied, they being the PRCA.
Yeah.
So we had a write-off, and I won it then, and then Butch won first, and I won second. I won $30,000 more than he did.
Yeah.
Never been a bad world champion. I said at the time, you know, just not the right one, because I was saying it. It was my perception. I should have been. But then again, I thought, okay, they changed the rules. That's a good excuse, but it's still an excuse.
Yeah.
Get your butt out there and get you another. And so you
did.
go right on. And so the getting to number 7 is where Sage is at because it's hard. After the '81 World Championship, my next one don't come until '84.
Yeah.
I'm hurt. I'm out. Dr. Evans and when Tandy Freeman first came on the scene, my groin muscles were so damaged that they just told me I should get a job.
Oh man.
Because it wasn't going to work. I mean, that's basically how it is.
I don't think that went down very well with you.
No.
Well, I got a job. Well, I went to work for my daddy. I had to stop.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, really? so the after the second bull of the '82 NFR, I was trying to beat Charlie Sampson, and I couldn't get on the rest of my bulls.
Oh man.
I was hurt, and I was taped from my titties to my toes, and it still didn't hurt.
Right.
And I had to quit.
Yeah.
You talk about feel like you got the rug jerked out from under you. So 82, 83, I'm, hashtag where's Donnie, but we didn't have hashtags.
Yeah.
And so I'm working labor list at Mesquite, Texas, is what I was doing.
Wow.
And I'd put on riding schools and basically
Kept
just
busy.
working on trying to make a living, making the payments. And I was friends with Malcolm Baldridge, was Secretary of Commerce.
We talked about him the other
Yeah, we did.
During
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan era, and we had a private rodeo for him where Charlie Sampson got killed in Landover, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And they invited me to come and ride. I had roped in the team roping, semi with Mac Baldridge, and we were buds. And I had a friend of mine that was one of the head Secret Service agents in the White House. So it was kind of a fun deal, and I thought, me and Terry go up there, and I was going to get to meet Louis L'Amour. He was getting the Congressional Medal, and he's my hero. I read every book he's ever written more than once, and so I told Terry, I said, I'll just enter the bull riding, and we'll go. She said, well, you hadn't been on anything in a year and a half, and I said, well, I can stand anything for 8 seconds, And so we went back there, and I had a little white bull that just jumped out there and, spun into my hand, and I rode him, spurred him around a little bit, and when the whistle blew, I tipped my hat and stepped off, and that was kind of fun. And George Michael was doing a show called The Sports Machine.
I grew up watching that.
Okay, really a precursor to Sports Center, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And he said...
Sunday nights, I remember.
He said... the bull obviously wasn't real tough. He said, but how do you feel there, champ? And I said, I feel good enough to go win number 8 now.
Yeah.
Enough with the excuses. And I started at Brawley, California, and won first. And in Hobbema, Canada, that was right during Christmas. And so I got after it. But I'll tell you this. My 7th world title, I was beat to smithereens, and I hurt. It was a relief to tie Jim's shoulders, and if I never won another dime, I was tickled to death because he's my hero.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And so I get the opportunity, and that was really hard. I mean, you think it's hard to win, and those judges remember this perception thing. So all during the year, you can have some judges that are tired of Sage winning and want to see Stetson win the all-around, and so they're not cheating, but if there's an extra point that you can get, or if there's a point that, Sage is a 5-time champ of the world, he shouldn't have got in trouble like that, tipped into his hand that one jump, so that point comes away, but this is all subconscious. This is not malicious at all.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
this is part of the
I'm
game.
sure there may be a malicious one or two out there, but you just don't have to enter that rodeo.
Right.
Find out where he's at.
Yeah.
But the thing that amazes me is when I think back. I mean, I rode S7 of Savage 7 at Denver in a short go and won Denver. Made some really good rides, but obviously in 1984 I wasn't riding probably as tough as I was in 1979.
Yeah.
And I ride a really good bull. Everything's working just fine. I had to win first by 10 points, it felt like sometimes, to get the first place check to win that 7th world title.
Yeah. Wow.
But then when I got the opportunity to go to 8, when I got the opportunity to go to win the 8th world title, I could just send my shaps in and get a check. Sometime it seemed like because everybody wanted me to win. I had been gone from the scene. I mean, in this business, as you well know, they love you while you're here. But when it's kind of like somebody's want to know if your dog was missing you. And is he gone?
Yeah, exactly.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Bullet.
Yeah.
That's great. And like you say, that's 7. That's a telltale there on how this whole deal is going to be. It's going to be
up until Sage, and he's got to go one more year.
Yeah,
but the good news is, heck, he's only 25. I ain't feeling sorry for him. He can take a pounding.
I think that this it's not even a rivalry because you've done nothing but support him, and we've been sitting here for 30 minutes, and you've been telling us how how great that you think he's the greatest bull rider from the greatest bull rider, in my opinion.
Yep.
And I'll just like Facebook couches, guys. I think you're the greatest. So when the greatest says that this guy is the greatest on the planet right now,
You ought to listen.
you're dang right.
If
I
you,
do.
If you care anything or think you know anything about bull riding, I
bet.
do know what I'm talking about.
Yes, you do. And
And
you
that
to
ain't up
say
for
that-
debate. And that's not because I'm the greatest bull rider of all time. I've won more than everybody else all
You
time.
damn sure.
That's all that is. And so this gets a little out of context, and it depends on who you're talking to. I say things to you,
Yes, sir.
or to Dusty Tuckness, or to Sage, or to Larry Mahan, that I won't say to the general public.
Right.
Yeah.
In some circumstance. Now, when you have a podcast and somebody really wants to know the inside story, I'm not shy, but I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But then again,
Wait, what?
But then,
no.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I don't want to. I don't want to BS
No,
them.
no. The feelings and Donnie Gay and not hurting feelings. Are you okay? How long have you been in town? We need to. I can't believe. Dusty, did you hear that? He didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. No, I got to tell you the funniest story of the entire week was Tough when he was talking about when you.
Oh yeah. Get in the cab.
Can I bring this back?
Yeah,
up?
absolutely.
It's so awesome.
Oh, well, in Canada, we were all in the cab.
Yeah, Rockford, he says, me, Lane, and Jim, and all of them are sitting in the cab.
Some really good bull riders.
Yes, they're sitting, and Donnie puts all four of us, there was 5 of us, all 4 of us are packed in the back, and Donnie's sitting up there, and the guy's driving the cab. And this is how he told it. You tell us how close it is. I'm sure it's close, but he says, so do you ride bulls? And Donnie says, better than any MF on this planet.
Tough's normally fairly accurate, and that was what I said. You know, and all of them are back there looking at themselves, and you know, and this is after my 8th world title, and I'm supposed to be retired, but I don't want to quit.
Right.
And we're trying to get qualified for the 50,000. If you won a certain number of these Canadian rodeos, you could get into that final group to ride for the $50,000 at Calgary. And
Nice.
And I said, I told a cab driver, you know, and he looked at me when I said that, and of course Tough and them are gagging back there in the back,
Oh, God.
you know, thinking, now wore out, you know. I mean, you know Tough, so he ain't taking it laying down.
No.
And I just said, hey, I said, you know, proof's in the pudding, and I won the bull riding that night, and I walked by Tough, and I slapped him on the back, and I said, I told you.
Oh, see, that's great. That's, you know, people used to say that,
You know, we're not on each other's Christmas card list, me and Tough, but we respect one another
That's
as
exactly
well as
what he
any 2 people on the planet. I know in my mind everything there is to know about bull riding, and I know Tough believes that 100% in his heart, and he's right. So we can have some lively discussions.
I bet y'all, you know, and that's so funny, but just those champs talking and bringing back the way that it is a respect, you know, and you don't necessarily, like you say, you don't have to go eat turkey dinner with him, but
we see this in sports,
You know,
man.
the
All over the place.
the expressions in the back seat were Tough was gagging, throwing up, you know, wanting to be ugly. Lane Frost was grinning from ear to ear,
just glad to be there.
and Jim Sharp looked like he was asleep. And it's the same way he looked whenever he was like 85 on his bull. You know, I mean, so getting to finish up, getting to go, I won't call it my riding days. They were finished up because I didn't really have any goals.
Right.
Getting to travel with them and I hauled Lane around. I went to 90 rodeos in the bull riding in 1989. Most people don't know that. But that's the last year. I got hurt at Sykeston, the last one I got on in 89. But, you know, Lane and I were in my airplane going to rodeos afternoon and night in June, July. He was living in Quanah. And you know, gosh, I was so fortunate to go from the Larry Mahan, Jim Shoulders eras all the way through Tuff Hedeman and Bodacious and Lane Frost and Jim
Seen it all, man.
Ride all 10 because I've been to 13 NFRs and I got to get on all 10 bulls at 11 of them of the 13, and I rode 9 twice, but I never rode 10. And I can tell you the feat that started with Leo Brown in Los Angeles riding all of his bulls. It was only 8. Don't matter what the number is. Ride all yours at the NFR and get a cock of the walk.
You know what I like about that? I want to add this. So, Donnie, you are a very confident individual, and you'll share information exactly what you do. But what's really cool is you also amplify the others around you. I mean, you're talking about other feats, and that's something that it's the respect of the sport, and where you may feel how you feel, and other ways feel that. The one thing I noticed with all y'all, you ain't bigger than the sport, and you respect. Within your event, what you can do, you believe in, you're the greatest, and you have to. To be a champion, you have to be like that, because otherwise you ain't a champion. From what I've been around in pro sports and things like that,
it's the same.
Yeah,
winning. Joe Beaver may be the wittiest guy in rodeo on a microphone,
yes,
and he's getting even better. Yeah. But he says, you work at rodeo from the neck down, and you win from the neck up.
Nice.
And that's where you put the finishing touch on it.
Yep. We got to put all this stuff on T-shirts.
Yes.
All these quotes.
We have a T-shirt that we're making this week. Now we'll get into that
we're
part.
Doing
Here
that.
we go.
Yeah.
Where's Donnie?
Yeah, where is Donnie Gay?
If I've heard for the last, how many years did you commentate the bull riding here? I mean,
forever, and I think that's why they replaced me.
Let me tell you something. That has been the subject on our social media, all the private message, because they think you did it personally.
Yeah, I mean, we're NFR, right? We're about the experience. We're not the broadcast, and this isn't political stuff. It's just legit. Like we're more of the experience, the city, everything else about NFR, and the rodeo happens to be the core center of it. We talk about those things, but they come to us, right? And we see, where is Donnie Gay? And at the first, meaning not being too dived into the broadcast things. I remember the first couple of days when you weren't on the broadcast, all of a sudden we're getting all this messaging. I'm thinking, oh my God, what happened to Donnie Gay? Is he okay? It's just not paying attention to TV. We got our other stuff going on here, and the fans love you, man. They love you.
And I see that on social media, and I appreciate it because that lets you know. I mean, when you don't have a judge telling you was 90 points, you have to have somebody, some measure of seeing how good you're doing, no matter what you as an individual thinks.
True.
And so to get bragged on, after the fact is, that's nice. This has been the most awkward 2 years of my rodeo career.
Elaborate on that. Tell us, how? Walking around?
When I talked to one person who gave me the news that I wasn't going to be on the broadcast, the producer, but was the illusion to me was it was coming from higher up to change the look of the show. Mm-hmm. And of course, my smart aleck answer was, well, they did. And, that was I was just being facetious, like or aggravating for some people, But when they told me they were going to make some changes, I thought, well, I've done it for a long time, so that'd be good. Well, when you and J.W. Harris is a really good friend of mine, Tuff and I, my relationship with him. Yeah. And they didn't go looking for my job; they were called. Right. They were called. Nobody told me. I'll share the accurate.
Come on with it.
I was actually embarrassed. That doesn't happen very often.
No.
I don't mind making fun of myself or doing something stupid, but so I get here last year, and my first year not doing the television in forever. So I had to kind of work on what I was going to do and how I was going to manage my time and blah blah blah. I see J.W. Harris at the awards banquet. Frontier Rodeo won their 5th stock contractor of the year this year, and they won their 4th one last year. So we're there and come down out of the awards banquet the day before the rodeo starts, and so I have my show at the Orleans, riding for the brand of Boyd Gaming and at the Orleans, and I see J.W. Harris. I mean, he's 4-time world champion. I've chastised him about letting the 2 other ones get away. He should be 6. Yeah. But he didn't get it done. Right. But he's my friend. And his family, Jackie and them are just, they're close. And I see J-Dub there, and I said, hey, how you doing? Because he was 16th. He didn't make the finals. Well, I didn't know he was hired. Nobody, and he's assuming that I've been told. And I see him. I said, you want to be on my show tonight? And this is at 10:30, so you can do the rodeo and the telecast. I mean, I'd do it and then go do the show. And he said, "Hey, yeah, I love y'all." Because he's the one that throwed it out there. Said, "Oh yeah." I said, "That's not national finals tonight. That's the Gay Beaver show." And so, I mean, so that's how this got started. And so
I can hear that now.
And I mean, JW is just that kind of guy.
Sure.
And he comes on the show and I'm watching it on TV like all the rest of the fans, and I was under the illusion that it was budget cuts, and there's 3 new hires there, and I'm thinking, dadgum, they at least could have told me the truth.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know it, and so I told J-Dub, I said you're gonna get a lot of hate mail. I said, Don't worry about it. I said, and call Jackie and tell her don't get on Facebook this week. I said because it's going to be stupid, and it was, and it is still, and it's a great place. I mean, you can always block somebody that you figure out's really stupid.
Yep.
You just block them.
Yeah. But it also tells the passion of this. I mean, there is no, to me, when we're talking about this subjectiveness of things, right? There's so much passion in this business. Insanely amounts of passion.
Absolutely, and you can see it in all sports. I mean, Vegas is going to see it up close and personal when the Raiders get here.
Oh,
God. I mean,
we're buckling up for that.
I mean, it's going to be fun. Or you can go to a Philadelphia Eagles football game.
Yes, it's legit. I mean, you want that because here's the thing I always think of is if that ain't happening and they ain't all vocal and their passion, if that ain't happening and there's silence. Silence is the worst. You don't want
the noise,
when no one's talking. That's the worst. You don't want that. You want them alive and what they want. Stir the pot a little bit and keep it moving forward. And
you've always, like Joe said the other day, both of you guys are lightning rods. I mean, it's like because you'll see people. I can't stand that damn little Donnie Gay. I wish that little sawed off.
But you know what?
Where's Donnie?
Yeah, but think about the consistency of what he's talking about. So if you think about. Donnie was consistently on the broadcast, consistently delivering, and then when that ends, there's going to be energy created for that, right?
Well, and part of it's just we don't like to change, and everything that JW did, I thought he wound up doing a reasonably good job, and everything Tuff's done has not been bad, and we're watching the greatest rodeo in the world,
exactly.
And this year's edition has been better than the last 10 or 12 in my estimation.
I agree with that.
And I mean, competition, the competitors, the livestock, it's as a whole, it's been really good.
It has.
So listen, Donnie, you are a busy dude. I know the schedule is full. Yeah. Love to hear just a couple more words before we get off here with you.
It is, and I appreciate being on NFR Extra, and Las Vegas events done just a great job keeping all this together. But my dad was co-Resist All Man of the Year with Cotton Rosser, Neil Gay, and Cotton won that, and for them to be recognized with the Rookie of the Year awards and stuff, that just means a lot, and so it's a big deal.
You talk about your dad a lot, and we appreciate that. And most of the guys that have been on this show,
let's see, Mr. Gay, Mesquite Rodeo, I've heard that a lot.
Yes. Donnie, thank you so much for coming here and seeing us again, and we have finally found Donnie. You'll see your new T-shirt. It says, "We found Donnie." That's our new one.
So, Donnie, we're obviously continuing this thing in 2020. Love to get you on somewhere around, I don't know, mid-rodeo season.
PRCA's made some changes, and RFD's going to have the National Finals Rodeo, so there might be another opportunity for me to be back on television, so that'll be fun. But if I'm not, I can join y'all, and I'm still riding for the brand at Boyd Gaming, and so life is good.
You better believe it.
Thank you, sir, for coming on, Donnie.
Enjoy your cigars.
I will.
All right.
Wherever you listen to the NFR Extra podcast, whether it be on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Google Play, or even YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And let us know what you think of this episode or any episode by leaving a comment.
NV, here we are.
Yeah, we are.
Yep.
Oh,
our last official interview of this NFR.
And this one's got all kinds of bells and whistles to it.
Yes, it does. One of my great friends, He's supported me, he's helped me, and I've got to back him up quite a bit, and it's such an honor because you're always going to get taken care of. In my opinion, one of the greatest of all time bullfighters, Dusty Tuckness, is with us right now.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Dusty.
Man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're all cool, calm, and collective, man. And for what you do, I love the demeanor of you guys, like, and what you do out there. And you think like you got to be all over the place, you got to be wild. You're really like, you've been cool sitting here while we've been talking to Mr. Donnie Gay.
Sleeping on the couch listening to it. You just heard your first podcast for the morning, didn't you, buddy?
Yeah, that was a good way to start out the morning, you know. Yeah. Sprawl out on the couch, get a little snooze, and hear Donnie Gay rattle off some old reride stories.
God, that was good, wasn't it? How you feeling, buddy?
Man, I feel really good after 9 rounds. There's been definitely years that I've left here not feeling this good, but got some great partnership in that arena with Cody Webster and Evan Allard and John Harrison in the barrel for us this year.
Boy, he's been moving that barrel a bunch, hasn't he?
Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah, he's been doing great.
All things have been good. We're taking care of guys for the most part and just living in a dream.
So, all right, this is me being the fan of, like, we've talked to Aaron and these guys, and we talked about the extreme sports of things, right? Coming from that core component, and what I've gotten to watch over the past 5 years of like BFO and kind of this whole highlight of your guys' world. The timing couldn't have been better for multimedia, kind of this whole way to broadcast things, and all of a sudden watching your guys' sport. How's it been? I mean, we can dive in all kinds of stuff with you, but how has it been kind of this, like, where you guys were a few years ago, and all of a sudden now it's like, man, people know exactly who you are, and there's things attached to that, and it's almost like you have your own universe outside of rodeo that what's been created. How's this been, this kind of run with this?
Yeah, it's really kind of been crazy how social media and stuff's taken over with every avenue in sports or just lifestyles. It's really crazy to think that some of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life or been a part of were before all the big broadcasts and podcasts and social media and Instagram and all this stuff. But now anything that happens in the arena, especially here at the Wrangler National Finals, it's online before you can think about it, and it's really blown up the sport. Into talking about bullfighters only, BFO, Aaron Ferguson, Joey Austin, and the crew. It's grown tremendously over the last 4 or 5 years to a point that it's almost trying to grow too fast. You got a lot of other great bullfight events coming up. The ABF, the PRC has had some. Nice. The sport is just getting back to what I think we've all truly wanted it to be. And mainstreaming it through, social media networking and stuff like that, I think it's really helped grow the sport. So it's benefited it huge, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah. So we had Smets on, and whoa, man, that guy's got energy, right?
You should have seen him, Dusty. He like you're sitting here all he was showing us how to like throw fakes out here on media that it's not television.
Yeah, Smets, if you're listening to this, you can't really describe or show them how to throw fakes when you're on a talk show.
Yes, exactly. But he did inform me today when I put him on there that it's only one T in Smets, and I said, you're worthy of two.
Oh, man. Yeah, but you know what he did? It's just, once again, adding more to what. So if the Joe public's looking from the outside in, they see you guys just dodging bulls and doing those things, they're not realizing there's strategy there. And there's things going on where you're pushing a bull to one side, or kind of that he's going to come straight at you. It was fascinating just to kind of listen to how much thought puts into this, of like their strategy and your practicing. One of the things that this is actually talking to Aaron back in the back days, you guys have like these backyard sessions, and I like in what I've watched times, that's where some cool stuff goes on. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is we talk about other sports like practice. Michael Jordan, for instance, you get on YouTube and type in Michael Jordan practice. And I'm not kidding. You will see interviews of people talking about, I hated practicing with Michael Jordan because he was just mean about getting good. I mean, how does these practice sessions go down with you guys about, getting better? I mean, are you, and I think of your sport as being progressive, right? Like, for instance, like skateboarding, things like that. How does that happen with you guys? I mean, are you with Webster telling them like, nah, hey man, do this a little different? I mean, you guys have a lot of that trade-off with kind of your skill sets and kind of what you're doing and to get better?
Yeah, in a sense. So talking with the BFO and Bullfighters only in like the sessions, it's kind of just a get together with friends to go out and kind of work on your craft, have fun with your buddies and that. Like I said, there's no money, there's no music, there's no fans. You're just out there kind of having fun. It's like a bunch of guys going to the beach and hanging out, riding the waves. But So yeah, and then you break
Except
down.
there's a shark in the water.
Yeah, shark in water. But then you go to film sessions, and I think the people that are the bullfighters that really look at it and critique it are the guys that are really being successful. So I'm not just talking about putting in the video from the session or from your last bullfight or from last night's performance. I'm talking about, slow motion, breaking it down, talking it over in your mind, talking it over with your buddies and that. And like, it gets to a point now with the sport of bullfighting to where there's been many times that myself, Cody Webster, or Nate Justice, Nathan Harper, anybody, a bunch of those guys, we'll consistently send video to each other, and we will slow it down so much and see what we could have done better. And because I always feel that every time I step in the arena, I can get better, learn something. These animals will teach me something every time. And the day that I don't think that is the day I think I need to hang up my cleats. But it's guys like that to help keep me spurred on to continue to push hard and try to grow the sport. Because at the end, how I look at the sport of bullfighting is it's a true art. And when it's done right, you don't really know what could have just happened. But the guys in the arena amongst ourselves, we know that what we just prevented, and we might have prevented a really bad wreck. So kind of preventing the wreck before it happens. So a lot of film sessions and breaking things down to a point to where it just kind of is mind-blowing. But that's the passion that we have for the sport.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like Nitro Circus, Jackass, those guys, right? But people don't realize that comes from a brotherly love of like just competing all the time. And really there's always death right around the corner. And when you get men and women working in that kind of capacity, this whole progression thing, it's different than what's happening personally. Once again, I hear this a lot. My opinion, right? This is my opinion.
Yeah.
But the difference is we're talking to like Donnie Gay, the competition side. Your guys' competition is very aligned with the extreme sports side of things because there's this kind of this brotherhood of like, there's a lot that can happen wrong quick with your guys' world. And, that love of knowing that everyone's got each other's back. How has it been for you being a part of this business and now to where this exposure, where it's going to go? Where do you think some of the things, because I've heard what you guys compete at NASCAR, things like that, kind of to amplify it. But how far has this thing got legs? I mean, because it really seems like it can be some standalone. I mean, you don't even need rodeos, right? We're not even doing that. Where do you see this going? Madison Square Garden kind of stuff?
Man, I think the sky's the limit for it, really.
Yeah.
When I was a kid growing up in rodeo, so how I kind of got started in rodeo, my dad fought bulls, and I just kind of fell in love with the sport of rodeo and bullfighting in general. But that was one thing that I look forward to is the old Wrangler bullfights, and you see, Smiths and Frank and Miles and Rex Dunn and some of the very greats that built the foundation of bullfighting. And then when I was getting old enough to be able to get close to start trying to compete in the Wrangler bullfights, they were dropped. They was let go. And so for the majority, the last 15 years or whatever, the sport kind of diluted, and the one guy that kept it alive and kept the pulse on, in the bullfighting world was Rex Dunn, and he was one of my best friends, a mentor to me, and he kept the sport alive. And then, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, Aaron really jumped on an opportunity, and it just spoke life back into it. So I think the sport can get so big, like NASCAR or like the PBR or any other extreme action sport, because you got the excitement, you got the athletes, you got the animal, you got the unpredictableness, and the wow factor. The fans that you see here, at the BFO championships. I've been over there for the majority of the performances. It's fun watching. I'm still a true fan just watching. I'll critique some of the things that I see in my mind, but I'm not necessarily one of the guys that's just going to go up and start saying, hey, you should have done this or whatever. Now, if it's something they did awesome, I want to be the first one to shake their hand, because they're participating in a sport that has been near and dear to my heart and has literally given me an awesome life.
So, all right, let's go back. You said when you were little, you started to get what? Okay, first of all, was Dad cool with you getting in with a bull, knowing he did that, knowing the dangers? I mean, was he like, really? Do you want to do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, being young, growing up into it, my dad fought bulls and was a rodeo clown, and my mom was involved in rodeo as well. And so I was always kind of around it when I was young. And I think it was the summer of '96. I started going more with Dad in the summer, and at that point in my life, I thought that, man, I was traveling across the country. Well, I grew up in Idaho, small town in Idaho. Well, I just went to Montana. Dad had Livingston, Drummond, Augusta, Butte, a bunch of them. But I thought I was rodeo. I thought I was really doing it, Harry. Yeah. And so after that summer with Dad, I remember when I come back home to go to school, like there was something that.
How old are you?
I'm 33.
No. Then at that time.
6th, 7th grade.
Oh man,
something like that.
Wow. Okay.
And there was something that tugged on me. Something tugged on me about the sport. Something that tugged on me about the lifestyle. And, so through that, I started going with Dad more through the summer, or each and every summer after that. And then I moved in with my dad my freshman year in high school to where I could try to be around rodeo more. And it all turned out, I feel like God's got a plan for all of our lives. And he really displayed that through the next 4 or 5 years through high school and college and that. So it was really neat to see where I was drawn to the sport of rodeo and how it really changed my life for the better. And, but yeah, so at the starting point, I actually started kind of sneaking away when I first started moving in with Dad. I started fighting bulls when I was about 12. Not like full time, not like getting hired or nothing, but I started sneaking away with an old bullfighting buddy of my dad's, Scotty Brown. He'd do some practice pin work at, there was a Fiddleback Ranch in Meeteetse, Wyoming. They used to be involved in rodeo, had a lot of bulls, sponsored, I think, Tony Mendez and Rob Smith's. And I started sneaking away to some practice pins with Scott. And lo and behold, eventually my mom and dad kind of found out what I was doing. And like I said, it was just a blessing that they didn't just try to pull me away from it. They kind of supported it, although they probably didn't really want to at that young of an age. And things were going good. Things were going great. And I guess when I was about 15, I'd always pester Dad in the summer rodeos. Hey, if it was an open bull ride or amateur rodeo or something he was working, hey, ask the contractor, ask the producer if I can step in with the guy, especially if there's one guy. Because back then, a lot of those rodeos, it was one guy. You didn't see 3 guys. And finally, we was in New Salem, North Dakota. I was 15, and he ended up saying, your boy can fight. And well, long story short, I was working with Josh Ravinius.
Right.
And I got in a pretty bad wreck. Busted my chin, broke some ribs, knocked me out. And I woke up in the ambulance. At that young of an age, my life kind of flashed before my eyes. It really gave me an eye-opener what this sport can and could do to you. And that was probably the biggest hurdle I ever had to get over in my life in this sport. Honestly, it about ended my career. Like, the next time I stepped into the arena for a bull riding event in Cody, Wyoming, the first bull out, he jumped out there about 2 or 3 jumps and turned back. The bull wasn't mean at all, but I remember when he looked at me, like, my heart stopped. Like, my legs left me. You hear in the old bullfighting tapes, Rex Dunn saying, he had to get so bad that, thought his legs were going to buckle. Well, that hit me. Fear struck me so hard that I had a huge hurdle to get over at that point in my life. And I'm just thankful that the sport, through God, family, and friends, that we were able to overcome that and just continue to try to move on and push forward.
Wow. So it created a massive amount of focus, it sounds like, after that, of like, if you're going to do this, there's something you got to face every single time you go out there.
Yeah, for sure. And so we can fast forward it up a little, probably 6-7 months from that point. And because I struggled with it, I know I enjoyed it. I loved the sport, but man, like, I was really starting to deal with this demon, this fear in my mind that I can't do this because I got hurt last time. And it kind of sounds cliche, but my dad got an event in Red Lodge, Montana, and he told the guy that hired him that he'd like for me to step in and fight bulls with him and the other guy, and Rich Bumbaka. It was his event, and he agreed to let me come. And I remember just before we walked in for the opening, Dad looked at me and said, son, if you're going to do this, you might as well try to be the best. And at that moment, that was just like the turning point in my life and my career. And, that comment stuck with me ever since then. And every time I step in that arena, I feel there's something I can get better, something I can work harder at, something I can do different to not only try to better myself from yesterday, but try to be an influencer to others who are wanting to pursue their dreams. And it's been a roller coaster since, but it's been awesome.
So, all right. So if you're listening out there, everybody goes through tough time, because I watch you, man, and you look like as cool as a cucumber out there and just what you're handling. So clearly you're listening, everybody. everybody's got to go through hurdles and things like that. And Dusty, I mean, you're thinking like he could have stopped at that point. So now let's fast forward. You've obviously been in the NFR quite a few times. Let's go to your first NFR. And do you remember, or at least kind of that experience, and maybe who was riding on your first one out, and how did that feel?
Yeah, so rewind back to the first NFR. It was, I mean, it's crazy to think, as I go back to sitting in the couch because back then we didn't have DVRs or anything, and sitting on the couch trying to stay up late enough to watch the finals, and then especially Monday through Thursday or whatever, the Ring the Bullfights, and half the time I'd fall asleep, and I just thought it was just like Never Land. As a kid. And, in 2009, in 2008, I was actually the last, I guess, true alternate where we actually had to suit up, dress out, and sit on the fence and be ready to go. But in 2009, when I got the phone call, like, there was just an emotion over me that I can't even describe. And we was in, so it's 2 rounds of voting. They vote for 1 full week. Everybody's eligible, and then they break it down to a short list, and those guys are voted on the last week. And we were in Belleville, Texas, and it was pretty neat because I'm a big fan of Boyd Paul Hamus, and he was announcing, and he can either make you feel 10 feet tall and bulletproof and make you feel like a little ant. And Boyd, he knew that I got the call, and when he opened up the bull ride, and like, it brought a tear to my eye. I mean, I got pretty emotional when he said this young gun, he's getting a chance to go dance at the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, that December, and it was so cool. It couldn't come soon enough, and it went too fast. I could remember in 2007, my best friend Cannon Acey, he made his first Wrangler National Finals, and I could remember when we come over the top of the mountain coming into Vegas at night and seeing those Vegas lights and the feeling that struck over him. I got to experience that feeling in 2009, and like I told Webster and Evan and Nate and all these guys that I've got to work with throughout the years, that there's so many steps to this process, and Robbie can explain it as well on his part of getting the phone call to the prep weeks going up to the drive to your first meeting to the banquet or the back number deal to your first perf. It was so cool. But the thing for me that was a blessing was Daryl Diefenbach, a guy that worked the finals 12 times. He took me in under his wing, and I think that was huge because I was still a young kid. I felt that I just wanted to fight bulls. That was pretty much the only thing on my mind. So Daryl kind of took me under his wing, made sure I was at the meetings on time, drove me to the arena, made sure I was in check-in, made sure he showed me around to where I could just focus on fighting bulls. So it was great to have a mentor like that to assist me through my first couple of years here in Vegas. So it's been a cool experience. Like I said, each and every year, it doesn't really change the emotions, the feelings. You learn how to handle them a little different. Obviously the roles change a little different, being here a few years, and same with Cody Webster, been here 7 times. We've kind of turned into that mentor role to guys that are getting an opportunity to come too. So that's the camaraderie of the sport, though.
Yeah. So, all right, I always look at this, and I could be off, but it looks like you guys have, you got to have a good relationship with the bull riders, right? It almost reminds me of like running backs and linemen, right? Like does Sage give you guys all like gold watches and things like that every year?
No, but Sage, if you're listening, you can go ahead. No, the camaraderie is awesome, man. You do become great friends with the bull riders, but not just the bull riders, the bronc riders, the bulldoggers, the whole rodeo family. But getting to see these guys, getting to see guys like Sage Kimzey, or like I said, two of my best friends, Cannon Acey and J.W. Harris. A couple nights ago, Sage strapped Bruiser again for 94 points, which was one of the highlights of my career to watch here. But a couple others that I got to be ground floor with was Cannon. He won his first average title here. My first year in the last round, in the 10th round, he was 93 points on Big Iron of 4L Diamond S. And then fast forward a couple years later, JW went 94 points, 94 and a half points
2010
on Smokescreen of Frontier Rodeo Companies, the stock contract of the year. And now we fast forwarded a couple more years, and Brendan Eldridge was 94 whatever points on Bruiser, And then this year, all of a sudden, Sage is 94 again. So those moments right there are very special and memorable to me, just because I'm friends with these guys. I want to see them excel and do great things. And in my opinion, yeah, I can honestly say that Sage is one of the most dominant bull riders to this day in this decade. And it's proven, you know, when the oven gets hot, that's when he rises to the occasion, and he's proved it time and time again. And it's cool to be able to experience the rodeo lifestyle with guys like that. You know, Boudreaux Camel's another guy that's having a phenomenal finals. Stetson Wright, maybe the hottest young kid that's come on the scene and made such a big splash. So just living the life with him is awesome.
So you brought up Stetson, and this is kind of a fascination on my part, being the guy outside looking and just loving rodeo and watching. I go back to the 90s, and a name like the name Ty Murray sticks out really well. You know, it's a stock guy that wins all around.
Sure.
And, you know, we haven't seen too much of that since.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, there's a good chance that could happen again.
Yeah.
And it's come down to that. You could be a part of something that could be pretty special. How do you feel about this Stetson thing and how that could end up? You all be a part of that. And hopefully, you know, I'm knocking on some wood here, but not that I'm pulling for a stock guy to win this, but I think it's important.
I think it's time for a stock guy, honestly. I mean, you know, I've always said the all-around should be both ends of the arena anyway.
Yeah.
You know, of course, he probably wouldn't want a rope, but
yeah,
I'm proud for it myself. Yeah. I mean,
I'll be honest with you. I'm pulling for Stetson.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to know the kid pretty good over this last year and a half.
Yeah.
And there's kind of been a funny that's been going around for most of the year. We was in Houston this year, and we were signing autographs, and he wrote on a piece of paper, and he showed it to Cody Webster and myself, and he said, "Hey, thanks for not getting me or let me get hooked." And I wrote back on the same note and showed him. I said, "The year's still young." And you know, that's kind of been an ongoing joke for us all year long. But the kid is cool. He's young. He comes from a rodeo family. I mean, if you guys are whoever's listening out there don't know the rights, the family is phenomenal. I had the opportunity to work the Wilderness Circuit Finals the last 4 or 5 years, and it is so awesome watching the bronc riding there. Mm-hmm. You know, from his dad to his brothers to his cousins and all this. Like, it's such a dominant rodeo family, and they're all pulling for each other. You know, when Stetson is riding, you know, you see his brothers in that pulling his rope, and it's cool to see his dad down there this year getting experience with his boy. And you know, a lot of people say, you know, they get the rookie rush coming to the finals and this, that, and the other. And I told a lot of people once I realized Stetson was making the finals was, I don't think it's going to really affect him because the kid grew up in Las Vegas with his dad and his you know, his uncles and that coming here. So he's already experienced the highs and the lows here in Las Vegas. So he come in here and he showed out really well. But again, you know, when you're talking about bull riding right now, the door to the gold buckle leads through Sage Kimzey, and it's going to be tough to beat that guy for a while.
Yeah, God, he's so phenomenal. Let's talk about some of the locker room shenanigans that goes on down there.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you an example. They about the 5th round, it gets a little bit monotonous down there. So, and we're not allowed to come out of the dressing room until the.
Oh, really?
No, we watch the rodeo.
Showtime, right?
Yeah, we watch the rodeo on TV. Yeah. And
I was gonna ask that question. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they have TVs in there. I mean, you don't come walking around in your clown stuff or or your bullfighter gear until the barrel racing. Actually, that's
really
and it's a scary walk down that tunnel. So, but there's always shenanigans down there. Like one year, they remember when y'all taped me up and threw me in the bull rider's locker room. And I mean, they had me taped up buck naked. Well, I have my underwear on.
And your whitey tighties on.
Yes, they were
duct tape, right?
No,
white
athletic tape.
Yeah, and take me up and pitch me in there with this. Y'all keep this idiot.
Oh, heck yes, that's awesome.
But there's a lot of stuff goes on down in that locker room because it gets. I don't want to say it gets boring, but you know, I see that 2 hours. There's nothing to do, so somebody's going to play tricks. A few years ago, I went back down there in 11, and I put what they call Tiger Bomb or on all the beer cans. You remember when everybody would take a drink? And then the stock contractors like to come in there, and there's no bathroom. Let's just say there's no bathroom in their locker or in their stock contractor room. So guess where they all come down there?
Man.
Oh, and they ruin it, don't they?
Yeah.
That's always a running joke. But we used to have the keg down there. They had to stop that because so many young guys were there, that they couldn't really control it. But,
Getting ahead of themselves.
Yeah, a little bit. But and the craziest of all of them, though, is that bareback riders room because they're done early.
I've been in that room.
And Tilden and them announcing the rodeo, he does what's the Bob guy? Oh, look what happened! Who's the funny guy that always does the commentating on the Facebook? You see it all the time. Come on. Oh, look at that one! He got hit like a Mack truck.
Not Tillman you're talking about, no?
No. The commentator, but Tillman does a great one. And they sit there and they while they're watching rodeo, they'll turn the sound down and they'll have an announcer contest. Yeah. It's not just a little contest. I mean, It gets pretty risque and brutal down there.
So how's okay? Obviously, we were talking earlier about mom and dad. How are they liking this now?
Good. Like I said, God's blessed me with some great parents and supportive parents, and some good brothers.
Yeah.
So mom, she's been in my corner since day one. Dad as well, and they're excited. They love it. They enjoy it. But the cool thing about the family that I have and the close friends I have is, it's no different than before I ever started fighting bulls or to this point. It's fun to be able to experience the rodeo with them. Mom, she'll break away and come to a handful of new events each year, and she's grown into a big rodeo fan. And the funny thing about it is I give her a hard time a lot. She's gotten to know J-Dub and Cannon and Cody Whitney and a bunch of my good friends over the years. And, when a lot of those guys were still rodeoing, she'd call me or whatever and be like, oh, how'd everything go? And be like, oh, man, the perf was really good. And she's like, okay, well, did J-Dub or Cannon win? How they're doing? I was like, Mom, I'm your son. So it's cool to see the relationships that she's got to grow with some of these guys and learn who they are outside the rodeo arena as well. So, it's been a lot of fun and getting to share this lifestyle with them.
Yeah. So, Justin Sports Medicine. One of the things I see is that's some teamwork with y'all, them. How's that relationship been for you? I mean, because other sports, and you got medics, you got things like that, but in this sport, there's a very important piece to things can go wrong in seconds. How's your relationship with sports medicine and the importance of where you're that conduit to them while things are going on or they're happening in real time? And how's your relationship with that group?
Man, it's huge. Not only through the endorsement program that they do for rodeo athletes. I'm thankful to be on that team, but the Justin Boots has jumped on with the medicine team's sports medicine program. Without these guys, we couldn't do this.
Yeah.
The last couple years I've hit about 180 performances a year. There's no way I could sustain that kind of attention and longevity without the Justin Sports Medicine program. Dr. Tandy Freeman, Rick, Chad, and Mike, and all the guys here at the finals and throughout the year at the majority of our big rodeos. There's no way possible. And the great thing about the camaraderie with the sports med team is if I'm at an event where they're not at, I can call them, and we're friends enough to where they'll pick up and they can get me to a facility if needed or hook me up with somebody around that area to assist me in whatever I need. And the other great thing about them is, just through sports and other activities that I've been in, it seems like a lot of people just want to kind of send you to the doctor and put you on a stretcher and, like the worst case scenario, and tell you to be out for 6 months. The great thing about the Justin Sports Medicine program is they're going to do everything in their power to keep you competing.
Yeah.
There's there's concussion protocol here and stuff like that. Colby Radley, he's had to sit out the last 2 rounds, which is a great thing. I think knowing what's best. But without this team here, and they're not trying to keep us away from competing. They're doing everything in their power to get us back in to compete at our best level. So that's what I really like about them. They're always trying to figure and learn new stuff out to help us, as well as they're familiar with our sport. So from the bareback riders to the bull riders to the timed event end to even contract personnel like myself. Say Casey Fields goes up and asks Sean Reddy for a workout, he will put a workout or treatments for him. But say I come up to him afterwards, it's going to be a little different because the styles of our event and what we're working towards. So they've got such a great knowledge of the sport. They got a great knowledge of sports medicine and health and fitness. And like I said, we couldn't do what we do all year long, especially Robbie getting hit in the barrel, without the support of them. And thanks to Justin Boots for everything they do for the sport of rodeo.
They're great. You know, you've had obviously a remarkable career in bullfighting. I say a sport, but it's, contract. You've pretty much, I know you've had some injuries and stuff, but you've been sure blessed about, you've not had that horrible injury that you see, like Nate did last year and stuff like that. Do you attribute a lot of that? Because I know you have such you and I are a little bit different in our regiments of exercise.
I can see that here clearly.
Yes, well, you know what? If he keeps working at it, he'll get this body. Okay, so is that not? Okay.
That's a masterpiece right there.
Yes, it is. Well, the old barrel men tend to sit on the tailgate and watch them exercise while drinking beer.
There you go.
There you go. That's one of my favorite stories. Andy North and Andy Burrell, during Ada one time, it was his first one, and Andy's a great bullfighter. Okay, now he's transitioned over to working the barrel and he announces for BFOs. Andy was telling me the story. He said his first one, when they were going to work together, he says, well, I'm sitting on the tailgate having a beer, and I can't find Andy Burrell. So he said, I'm looking around. So I go, and I was like, where's Burrell? I go in the locker room to find out where he's at, so we can get a game plan. He's in there stretching with those guys and doing all that. And he said, I get him by the ear, and I drag him right back outside, set him on that tailgate, opened up a Coors, and said, no, you're a barrel man now. You don't have to do that. Another funny story with Dusty, I love this. We were all at Casey Fields when we all meet up, and that's what's so much fun. Do you remember rolling down the hill?
Yeah.
So Casey lives on the side of a mountain, okay?
In Utah, right?
Yes, and they this was when Lou was still with us, Well, he has an arena down on the bottom and a little orchard thing down there, so he can overlook it down in there. Well, we all got there. We were playing golf one day, and the shenanigans. When we're on our off days, it's Monday fun day a lot of times. So we might go play golf or do something. Do you remember who was it rode the cow? You remember the cow got out?
Oh yeah, I can't remember who jumped on the cow. But
it was
Chandler.
Chandler Bounds rides the cow, gets out, so he rides it back up the hill. He's got it broke to ride. So we cracked my barrel out, okay? And Dusty said, I want to get in this. And we're like, oh yeah, let's roll it down the hill.
Oh, that sounds safe.
Down the mountain. And let me tell you, it was 100 yards, I bet, that Dusty gets in this barrel, and we roll him down this hill. And I guarantee he made 2,000 revolutions. If that would have been me, I would have had a heart attack.
Yeah.
But nobody's ever died from being dizzy, they say. You went down that hill and over in. I'll never forget that day when that thing was going 40 miles an hour down the hill. He pops out down.
Oh yeah.
It rolled all the way to the highway.
Yeah.
God, that's the memories and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
But I could only imagine everything comes together outdoors, and then look, that's how these things lead to this. And I brought up the Nitro Circus and things like that. But but there's. You just keep going and doing things and upping things and keep it going, but it can't go forever. So here's a question I have for you, Dusty. You're 32. How long are you gonna keep doing this? I mean, where are you gonna, like Donnie Gay said earlier? He knew it's time to jump out. Mm-hmm. What are you? Is that something down the road, or is it something you're just like, man, I'm right in the mode, or where might Dusty just decide to not be out there in the arena anymore?
That's in God's hands for me, but I still feel really good. I still feel pretty youthful. I still feel I got a lot of great years. But I'm going to stay involved in rodeo and with Bullfighters Only, BFO, and the bullfights and more of the production side of things for sure. But also faith and fitness. I've been getting more involved in CrossFit regimens. About a month or two ago, I got my level 1 CrossFit trainer's course completed. So just kind of stair-stepping into that direction as well. I love to train. I love to try to train people and help people out to achieve their goals. I actually had the world number 1 in the BFO, Aaron Mercer. He come and trained with me for about 2 weeks before the finals, and we really try to break him, and we was pretty hard on him, but the kid never quit me, and the kid just won the Ruffy Cup, pretty much sealed the deal for the world title this year for the BFO, and he's out today for the championship Saturday. So I'm excited to see what he does. He showed up and showed out really well, and that's what I enjoy a lot too. You know, I'm blessed and thankful to get to come here and work the National Finals Rodeo with some great guys, and I'm so thankful for the great sponsors and committees and rodeos that let me basically let this kid live this dream. But I also want to be an influencer. I also want to be able to inspire people to chase their dreams, because I was once that small town kid that nobody knew of, and kind of had to just go out on my own last dollar and barely put enough fuel in the tank and eating crackers and croutons to get to the next rodeo. And so just anybody listening out there, that, you know, you're where you're at this moment for a reason, and you can do great things if you believe in yourself. So to seeing guys like Aaron Mercer and even Cody Webster, you know, I've known that kid for a long time. I remember when he was at a practice pin, he was in 8th grade, and I just seen something special about this kid, and he's worked hard at it and developed it, and in my mind, he's turned into be one of the best bullfighters of all time at a young age. So it's great to not only share the arena with a guy like that, but just to see the progress that he's doing and the image that he's putting out there.
Yeah, and big country too. He's had a good time.
Big country. Yeah, it's cool to see. Like I said, I was that one kid that first time that had my first NFR, and it's cool to be there with guys that are having their first NFR, you know, and seeing big country, Evan Allard get an opportunity this year to step in there. It kind of lets me relive some of my old memories.
Nice.
Walking down the tunnel the first time, or being in the locker room and seeing some of the guys. And you know, the last couple nights we've been having Heath Stewart, Frontier Rodeo Stock Contractor of the Year, and Rick Smith, and you know, Fred Betcher, and that going back and forth to the arena, and we got to talking about, you know, what I was thankful for is, you know, when I first started coming here, I got to be in the arena still with some guys like Jesse Bell, you know, and Zach Oakes, and some of those guys that were legends of the sport in my mind when I was, you know, BJ Schumacher, Cody Hancock, you know, so who holds the arena record here at the NFR. So it was neat to be a part of some of those guys' career, and now you see guys like Sage Kimzey, Stetson, and Trey Benton, and Cody Till, all these guys that are basically, you know, kind of changing the game more or less. So it's cool to still be a part of it. And like I said, right now I don't see me slowing down at all. So
you still got a job to do tonight. So don't want to take you up. And what we're talking about, in case you kind of gotten a little dazed here listening, is we're talking about the 10th round of the 2019 Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. And I'm hoping you see something special tonight. And I hope we all get to see something special. And thanks for coming on this show. Nothing but God bless, man, and luck to you and the rest of the career. And this was some good stuff.
Yeah,
you're cool, man. You're just calm and sitting there. And
that's him.
Yeah, I guess you need to be that way. I mean, for what you do out there. So, man, we really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Dusty.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for listening to the NFR Extra podcast. Make sure to give us a review and rating on wherever you listen to NFR Extra. For more information regarding the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, visit NFRexperience.com and follow Las Vegas NFR on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube.
Gotta make it out to Vegas, where the big boys roam, with the rovers and the racers and the bulls and the broncs, and the ladies in the skin-tight wranglers and the cowboy hats.